Hey, deserving listeners, by popular demand, I'm going to watch Danielle and Mohamed. A lot of you voted for this couple, so let's watch.
Whatever we want.
It's going to be a big culture shock because he's never been around kids, especially teenage girls. I keep asking him, are you sure you're up for this?
As long as I don't have to call him father.
You can call him Mohamed.
All right, this is a scene we don't see very often where the children are talking about they're asking questions and expressing their concerns about having a stepfather. They're saying, I don't want to call him father, and they're talking about halal food and will that change our diet, and Danielle is reassuring them, you can call him Mohamed, you can call him father, whatever you want, and you don't have to give up your food. His food will be in a separate section in the fridge. So on one hand, this conversation is good and helpful and healthy. On the other hand, the basic level of this conversation is concerning because obviously there are more deeper emotional things besides just what do I call him? That's just the tip of the iceberg. They're saying, do we have to call him father? She's saying, no, you don't have to call him father. But beneath all that is, what is this going to mean? Is he going to kind of be our father? What's his role in the family going to be like? So I hope that they can have those kind of conversations. And sometimes you want to go to a family therapist for that. As a family therapist, people have come to me absolutely in situations like this when a step-parent enters the family and there's no problems yet, but we talk about things. Therapists are trained to help people to talk about these things in a way that is healthy and, set up some ground rules, so to speak, so that everyone feels safe and everyone understands the rules. Because it's possible, I don't know, but maybe Mohamed thinks he is going to be father. He is going to be treated like a authority. And then there's going to be a conflict there. So it'd be important to have all those conversations up front.
So has he called you since?
No.
I don't know where he's at. I'm afraid he's not going to get off the airplane when we get up there.
This is a topic that comes up a lot in family therapy when I would work with families. People cry in session, parents will cry in session, or parents will talk about crying at home in front of the kids. And there's a lot of misinformation around what you're supposed to do around your kids. Because on one hand, you want to model good, healthy, emotional lives, which means crying occasionally in front of your kid. You definitely want to be crying in front of your kids sometimes when you're sad so that you can show that it's normal to cry, particularly if you're a dude, because we need to lead the way and push against the toxic side of masculinity and embrace the non-toxic side or the healthy side of masculinity, which is to be strong and courageous enough, a man enough to cry, meaning that if you're man enough, you don't care about what other people think and you don't care about people questioning your manhood because you're secure in your manhood already and you can be a healthy human being who has the full range of emotions, or at least you can express them. And so on one hand, you want to express your emotions in front of your kids. It's okay to cry. But on the other hand, you don't want to terrify your children. Now, these kids are a little older. They look like they're all teenagers. I think she even said that. But, sometimes we think of teenagers as little adults. I like to think of teenagers as big children. I guess you could make an argument for either. But anyway, so they are watching their mother cry, and the key is how are the children reacting? It's not exactly what you're doing as a parent around your kids emotion-wise. It's how they're taking it. So if you are crying or sharing an emotion in a way that's scaring them too much, then that is something you want to avoid. Like if you're completely falling apart and you don't know what to do, you're just in that deep hole of despair. Those kinds of emotions should be for your friends and family, your peers and your therapist, for your journal, for yourself, for the mirror, not for your children. Children need to depend, they depend on parents to be safe, a secure base, someone that they can turn to as a foundation for them to go off into the world and take risks. And if they think that you are fragile, then that is a problem. Now, sometimes you can't avoid it. There are situations where you just can't avoid being fragile, like if you have cancer or something and you're in and out of the hospital, You just can't do much about it. But you want to do your best to protect the children from that fear. Even kids in their 20s will sometimes take it hard and be damaged, so to speak, by that information. So I'm not quite sure what's happening here, how the kids are receiving it. She started to cry. She's on that in-between zone between, well, I'm just crying because I'm sad, or I'm completely falling apart because I'm fragile. Plus, we don't know the history regarding the mom and the kids, regarding the mom's emotions and how much the kids know about the mom's life. Now, I will say that the kids, immediately they start to see her cry and they're not doing anything. So I don't know what that says. Let's continue watching.
Do you want to try to call him?
This person cannot be reached at the moment.
So the kids are trying to help, which is fine, and they're suggesting ideas, which could indicate a bit of a parentification, particularly for that, I think, the oldest one with the short hair. She seems like the oldest one. But what I would hope the mom would say would be something like, Mommy's fine. I'm sure everything's going to work out. I'm just really sad right now. That's what you want to do with your children usually. You want to reassure them. You're crying, you're sad, you're worried, and that's normal, but you want to contextualize it for children and let them know that they don't have to take care of you. That's kind of a big part of it, is when you're having an emotion, you don't want to give the impression that, one, the children are responsible for taking care of you, and two, that you even need help from them, and that you're either fine on your own. You know, mommy's crying, mommy's upset, but mommy's got it under control. I'm really crying. I'm kind of scared, but I'm sure everything's going to work out. Don't worry about me. I'm okay. If the kids are expressing concern, they thank you, and it's nice of you. So you still want to have the parental approach to your children. You don't want to create an environment where you're peers, if you will. Now, it's complicated because in healthy families, you will see shifts in roles where sometimes children are kind of taking care of the parents. But that should be extremely rare and limited, is the point. So I don't know what kind of pattern they have.
This is really weird that he's not calling.
My worst fear would be that he did come for just the visa and he just left, and I think my mom would be really upset.
She wouldn't really want to deal with stuff anymore, and she would just get down and depressed and stuff.
I don't know what that means, but one of the kids said that the mom might get depressed. Does that mean that the mom has been depressed in the past and that the mom is prone to that? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
You need to explain me everything so I can understand. Why you didn't tell me that you have problems before I come here? Why?
Because I was scared that you wouldn't want me.
It's not about scared.
That you wouldn't want me.
All right. So we've seen this before, where the American will lie prior to the arrival of their spouse, keeping things out, lying by omission because they're afraid that they're going to lose them. And in this instance, Danielle is admitting that right away. Other cast members might say, well, it's none of your business, or something like that. Or it's all your fault. So Danielle's not blaming him. She's taking full responsibility. She's saying, I was afraid I was going to lose you, and so I didn't tell you. That doesn't make it okay. It doesn't. Just because we can relate to it or just because we can understand it, lying by omission is not okay, especially in a situation like this. And Mohamed is upset, understandably.
If you
what
knew the truth.
did, it's mean you're lying. It's not about scared or not scared. You make me lose everything there. I lost my job, I lost my family, my friends, everything.
Are we going to be able to figure all this out before your visa? I'm worried sometimes that we're not going to be able to figure it out.
Now, it's understandable that Danielle is upset and worried right now, and she is having some emotions. But there's something notable about the way she's presenting the emotions. It's a whiny presentation, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is in that tone, right? And I wonder what that means about her. I don't know. I'm still trying to get a gauge of her personality and his. I haven't watched that much yet, so I don't really know. But there's something, often what I do is I try to imagine what age someone is exhibiting, and we all regress. We all will want to crawl into a fetal position sometimes, which is regression, right? And for her age right now, I would say she's, well below 10 years old. The presentation, the whiny and the desperation and the submissiveness in her voice. Hey, deserving listeners, as you all know, I am constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. Well, one of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp. If you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to betterhelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the promo code Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it really helps us out. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, which is great because you deserve it. And I know also that it can be hard to find a good fit, find the right one for you. Well, one of the options available in terms of your shopping is to go to betterhelp.com/Kirk. I've been told you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message your counselor at any time. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. I've also been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy, and you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide. So go to betterhelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month today.
I can guarantee you're going to have a lot of fun if you come here.
Okay. Try to touch my body, and it's the first time it happened to me. In my country, even the girl like the guy, and she start talking and say like that, I like you, or no, it will never happen.
Okay, so he goes to a bar with some new friends after playing American football, and he's playing pool and he's pretty good at it, and then this rando woman comes up and starts hitting on him pretty heavily, I would say, touching him, and he is upset about it, or not upset, he's just saying, he's essentially just body languaging no. But he's so it's I don't, we haven't seen a scene like this in 90 Day Fiancé. It's interesting.
I need to tell you something,
Something about what?
but I'm scared to tell you, and I'm afraid you're really going to be upset.
Tell me.
Can I just let you read this?
All right, I've been hypothesizing or observing Danielle's behavior and thinking about the regression that she will typically exhibit under stress. She seems to have a very strong childish mode that she can go into. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not pathological necessarily, but it could be bothersome, and it could be an indication of trauma at that young age or some kind of parenting problem. And if you're Mohamed, you might get annoyed with that over time. You might get upset about that. It might feel like you're not really with someone that is of an adult with you. I don't know. It's just how she comes across. And she has some bad news to tell him. Instead of standing on her own 2 feet like an adult and telling him, I think she's 41 years old, she has to hand him a note, essentially. It's not pathological. It could work, but it could also create some problems. And by the way, I don't know if anyone has said this thus far in the comments, but that guy could very well be my brother. I mean, usually people will say, oh my God, that person looks just like you. And I'll be like, I don't know. But I don't know, like similar eyebrows. Let's see if I can get a similar kind of look here. I mean, I don't know. Cousin, maybe?
You did something wrong?
No, I didn't do nothing wrong.
So how they fired someone did nothing wrong?
They feel that I'm not good enough at the job.
But you wasn't serious about jobs. That's why you lost it.
I can find another one.
I don't believe that.
Okay, so she was informed that she was fired because she wasn't good enough at the job. I think that's what she's saying. And she's worried about what that means for their future. Their finances were already bad. I think her cell phone was turned off, and they're coming up on a wedding that they have to pay for. And he's upset about that. And he's saying, why did this happen? How did this happen? So what we would hope that he would say is, oh my God, I'm so sorry what happened. You know, you want to try to give the benefit of the doubt to someone, especially if you don't know the situation, and say, oh, well, what happened? Explain to me what happened. I still love you. I'm sure that is intuitive in terms of what she's looking for. The other thing is that when you act like a child, people tend to treat you like children. Because when you act like a child, you're sort of elevating the other person into. You can imagine a kid getting a bad grade or getting kicked out of class and being sent home with a note, and the child won't verbally tell the parent. They'll just hand the parent the note, which is essentially what she was doing. So this might be the beginning of that dynamic where he is now pushed into a position of authority and being stern with her. If she stood on her own 2 feet and said, honey, I'm just going to tell you something. I got fired from my job, but I don't want you to worry because I can get another job. I'm pretty sure about that. And I also want to let you know that I got fired, but I don't think I should have been fired. Or that job wasn't really suited to my skill set. And I'm going to find another job. That's what an adult might say. But instead, she's like, oh my God, here's the note. I hope you don't reject me. And that actually brings up a question as to whether or not her traumas come around rejection when she was a young child that had an arrested development, at least part of her, that exhibits when she is stressed.
What we gonna do? You are the only one responsible about the money till I get a job. We lost everything.
Now, his attitude, I think, is a little overly stern. He could reserve judgment. He could, she's saying, I'm going to get another job. So he could say, oh, okay, well, let me know if you need any help with that. And I'm really sorry that I can't contribute yet because I'm not allowed to work for a while. So he could just say something like that, right? Or is there anything I can do to help you get a job? Or is there anything we need to do to budget better? So he seems to be coming down a little hard on her, I think. I wonder what that says about his personality.
I'm sorry, but it's so hard for me. I don't want to be in this situation.
I know.
I didn't expect that life will be like this here, so hard. I can't stay.
That's interesting, and that's an hypothesis that has been floated before, and people will even say this, who live outside the United States, that there's this notion, this fantasy, that in America, money grows on trees and everyone's super rich. And it's probably built up by culture, movies, reality TV shows maybe. And also, when you hear about the salaries of people who work in the United States, to some people around the world, the minimum wage in the United States is actually really high for them. But the thing that they might not take into consideration is the cost of living. That in Seattle, for example, I don't know let me actually look it up. So the average rent in Seattle for a typical small apartment, I'm guessing maybe 1 or 2 bedrooms, is over $2,000. So if you're earning $15 an hour, a good percentage of your income, which is minimum wage in Seattle, I believe, is going to go towards rent. But $15 an hour when rent, say, in another country is a tenth of that, then it seems like everyone's rich. And so we wonder about, one, the misconception that people have before they get to the States, and two, is that a part of their motivation to come here anyway? And I've been saying this from the beginning of watching the show, that you can have both. You can be at least in love enough with someone, or very much in love with someone in the United States, and also be looking forward to a higher cost of living. You can have both. So we'll see how he reacts here. If that indicates that he's like, oh boy, I don't know, given our financial situation is kind of worse now than it was for me back in Tunisia, maybe I don't want to marry you anymore. Let's see what he says.
If there is no food, there is no electricity, no water, how someone can live in this situation?
And the other thing I'll say is that they're not just dealing with low standard of living, they're dealing with potentially losing their house. They don't have any electricity, they don't have a cell phone. So he might think, well, even if I did love her, I don't think this is going to work because I don't want to have this kind of lifestyle, so I'm going back home. Let's see what he says.
I have to think about this, really. I need to think about it. if we're going to get married or not.
Makes total sense, really. It's logical. Now, if he loved her, as he says he does, then he should say that. Say, look, I love you. I want to be with you, but I don't know if it's financially viable for us to be together. So, my feelings for you are real, but I don't know if I want to do this given the hardships that we're going to experience, at least in the short term. Maybe we can think about this in a year or something. But that's not what he's saying, which is kind of notable. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.